from experiencing a Council of Trent moment?
Well, I think part of it is that the Muslim world is in great disarray right now. I mean, Darul Islam, I just wrote a little piece about the abode, we call it the abode of Islam. I said the abode of Islam is derelict. The plumbing's not working, the water's not working. I believe the foundation's solid, that we can renovate the house, but the house is derelict. And I think there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of reasons for it. Overall, just the curvilinear nature of civilizations. Islamic civilization has been on the downside for quite some time. It was noted in the 14th century by Ibn Khaldun that things were looking bad, right? And so we also, I think the traditional, and I'm going to do a little pitch for liberal arts right now, but the traditional model of Islamic education was similar to the Christian model of Christian education, which is that you needed a well-rounded a person. Most religious scholarship now is entirely focused on religious training only. Whereas in classical Islam, the Muslim scholars were great mathematicians. Many of them were at the cutting edge of science. Much of Islamic theology actually deals with Euclidean geometry, oddly enough, that a lot of the great theologians took a lot of insight from Euclidean geometry, which the book of Euclid was something that was mastered by all traditional Muslim theologians. So I think a lot of it is just a loss of a kind of holistic view. And right now you have, in the Muslim world, you have governments that have been entirely in control of the religious tradition, which for me, it just deracinates religion of its life when governments take over religion. And that thriving traditional antagonism between the religious leadership and governments, which was there. There was a very interesting tension between the two. They were loyal citizens, but there was always a tension between them. That tension has largely been lost, and that has led, because of the stagnation, it has led to reactions from within the Muslim community who now see traditional scholarship as scholars for dollars. That these are people that are just in the employment of tyrannical governments. And so demagogues have arisen out of that vacuum. And now you have, unfortunately, I mean, the worst thing that you can do is hand religion over to uneducated people, especially a religion as dangerous as Islam, because Islam does have, in the Quran, there are verses that are very difficult to understand without serious training. I'll just give you one example. There's a verse in the Quran that says, لا تجادلوا أهل الكتاب إلا بالتي هي أحسن إلا الذين ظلموا منهم. Enter into dialogue with the people of the book except in the best way. And then it says إلا الذين ظلموا منهم. And the word إلا there usually means except. But in that verse it actually means and also even the people who are ظلموا. So there's an example where an Arab, if they hadn't been trained in classical scholarship, they would never be able to understand that. And when Graham Wood came to me, he actually interviewed me in my house. And he was talking about ISIS and how they have, their own version of and I said, where did they get their training? And I pulled out a book, which is called Mughni Labib. It's a book it's the last book that you study in grammar. It's 2 volumes just on the prepositions and particles in the Quran. And it goes into great detail. And I was just telling Ravi George about the Oxford comma, which I'm a fan of. That there was a case in Boston where literally, because there was an Oxford comma omitted in a state contract, they were going to end up having to pay possibly $10 million. People don't realize that grammar matters. Let's eat grandma. Is she going to be dinner, or is there a comma after let's eat? Grammar matters. I mean, I actually want Google to put something on the internet that automatically erases anything poorly written, because all of these negative comments would just disappear.
Freedom of religion, fine.
Freedom of speech is not for, private companies. They also have. But it would just eliminate all that negativity. Because whenever I see really vile comments on the internet, they're always poorly written. It's so interesting to me, you know.
So I think this might be a good transition point for a couple of things. The first